did you find ways to make money from home? Because I know that there's some moms out there that heard that part of the story and was like, wait, how did she do that? And with 5 kids, like, I really want to find a way to make money from home, homeschooling, or what have you. What would you tell them to do?
I think it starts with your gift, the things that you're naturally just good at, and monetize it.
Yeah.
And oftentimes and sometimes you don't have to intentionally, because I would say this, I didn't intentionally monetize it, but it got monetized, if that makes sense. So I kind of stumbled on that secret, but that's how God works, that's where that faith comes in. So I used to do resumes for people. I would help them. Like I would, somebody, oh, I'm looking for a job and I'm trying to get this job. So, a lot of people are just not good with documenting their own success
Mm,
or, writing it in a way that's compelling where people want to hire you.
yeah.
Some people get a resume and they say, oh yeah, I was a cashier. I did, I did some customer service, that kind of thing. That's not the type of resumes I write. I write resumes that help bring value. Like, how did you contribute to assisting a customer? And how did you impact their bottom line?
Got it.
So instead of you saying I was a cashier, I assisted customers with decisions regarding food purchases. You know, like,
Mhm.
what is that? Cashier. you know um so it's how things are worded, and then working through confidence. I would help people interview. Somebody would say, oh yeah, I got a job, I need help interviewing for a job, and I would crack a joke. So I'm calling them and they'll go like, who's calling? I'll change my voice. I'll go over the top proper with them, and then just start asking questions. Hang up. They wouldn't know it was me. And then I'll talk to them again. I was like, you did pretty good with that job interview. Or hey, you need to work on this or you need to work on that. And then people were compelled, and I would joke like, pay me on the back end, or don't forget about the little people. Oftentimes people want to sow in your life, especially believers who are just in a space where they just really want help to be, somebody duplicate
Mhm.
what they do or help them out. Um, if you're talented and gifted with decorating and doing that kind of thing, do it. Even if you're working vicariously through your kids. Now, if you're having to search for what that is, the way that I help people discover that, I said, I want you to ask 5 key people in your life, what do they think you're good at?
Mm.
Make sure it's someone that's known you from, when you were knee high to a grasshopper. And like another close relative, someone you may have worked with, a neighbor, and then ask those who you consider your holies of holies are really good friends, and ask them to give you about 3 to 5 key things that if they had to describe you, or if you were in an interview and you had to describe yourself, what would they say your qualities are?
Okay.
And that's impartation, right? That kind of gives you a different way. "Oh, I haven't quite thought about myself that way. And that's when the people who are really modest and just can't really think of what those things are. And then you ask them too, what do you think my natural gift, what am I good at? And people will tell you what they feel like you're good at. People like, oh, Meg. I mean, I like the way you word stuff. Like, I wouldn't even know how to say that. But I was like, really? Yeah, you're really good at how you say stuff. Like, you have a way with words. And I was like, wow, didn't know that.
Mhm.
So that's a way to kind of get that going if you can't just pull it out of your head,
Mhm.
and then start praying about it. One of the things that you don't want to pray and stay stuck. If you're serious, the Bible say, knocking you shall receive. I mean, knocking the door will open.
Mhm.
If you're really serious, you want to pray. The purpose for prayer is when you hear yourself pray, I say faith comes by hearing.
Yes.
You want to hear yourself pray. You don't want to be the person saying you're praying and you just laying in the bed and you're not saying nothing, right? Because you're not hearing anything. But when you pray about, what's my gift? What is it that you would have me to do right now? That kind of thing.
So how did you get into the project management? Was that part of that when you were just kind of finding different things you could do to make money from home? Was that a part of that whole journey or
So I actually was a project manager before I got married and moved here.
okay, gotcha.
When I was 19, um, telling my age, but when I was young, I was in college. I worked for huge bank, and in that role, what they did was the company did a merger, and they
Okay.
merged with a larger bank. Well, the larger bank took over from up north. They came down south to observe how we did job shadow, that kind of thing. And they're like, okay, you, you, you get it. We'll put you guys in a on the job management training program.
Okay.
And it was like an executive on the job MBA.
Wow.
I didn't know how blessed I was at the time, right? In doing that, we were able to do breakthrough leadership. This gave me the ability to speak truth to power. I
Mhm.
was taken behind the veil in meetings with execs, going back and forth about how things were running. And then they stop and go, well, what you think? I learned then at 19
Mhm.
that data, it runs the world. Without data, you don't have a business. I have so many people that come to me, oh, I want to sell my business. I want to sell my business. Oh, you have your customer list? You have your customer information? No, because they
Wow.
run their business off social media. They don't know their customer's name, email address, birthday, physical address. What are you selling? Your 9,000 likes?
Mhm.
That doesn't translate to money. So I learned
At
that data is what
19
drives the world when I
at
was
19, you were doing this. I'll just have to
doing that.
pause here.
Huh?
I just had to pause here because that I'm listening to you saying this, and there's not too many people who would take that kind of a chance on some 19, 20-year-old kids. Like, there are people who graduate from college and don't have anyone taking them under their wing and showing them what you're telling me. Like, that's huge. I'm
That
sorry.
was,
Go ahead.
and
It's crazy.
even while I was in it, I didn't realize how impactful it was because I was just doing it.
Yeah.
I was just in I was just in the motion. I loved the job. And initially it was part-time, and then I was a full-blown college student, and they were like, we need you to do full-time. So I had to do 4 10-hour days. So I worked Thursday through Sunday. No, Wednesday through Saturday. Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yeah, Wednesday through Saturday. I was very intentional about working on Fridays and Saturdays because had I not done that, I would have been hanging out or compelled to do other things with my other college friends.
Yeah.
Fridays and Saturday nights was the hangout night. But
Mhm.
Thursday night was the hangout night because most people didn't have class on Friday. Then they hang out all Friday. You hang out all Saturday. And most of us back then, we went to church on Sunday, even if you hung out all night. So by me doing that, I was making money. I was learning phenomenal. When I say phenomenal, I mean, I was like, oh, so this is why we do this,
Mhm.
in terms of working. And then coupled with that, I had a college professor that was over the master's program. I'm not sure what was going on with the budget, but they did not have enough content for curriculum. He had just become the dean, had come over to that department. So there was a lot of uh, content that needed to be put together for that. And I'm explaining what I do. And my professor, who, their job is to help us get employable. I already got the job, right? And
Yeah.
so he was like, here's what I need you to do. I need you to go to help. I need you to push F1. I need you to go to help. And I need you to print the material that comes out. So because I was in a role that I was in, I was able to print whatever books, whatever we needed, because it was part of us doing the research.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to just be getting a whole bunch of information. Like, what's the form? Like, how does college graduates do research? Like, I wanted to know what I was missing, right?
Yeah.
And that became the curriculum for the computer science department.
Oh. Cool.
Let me tell you how life changing that was. I mean, now in hindsight, I connect all the dots. While I was going through it, I didn't know. Think about students that's in college right now. They don't learn real world. They learn real world stuff, but
Mhm.
they're not pretty much the programming and stuff is a little bit outdated. It's
Yeah.
like a year, 2, 3, 4 years behind
Yeah.
because it has to happen first. Then, there's programs about it and stuff, and you got to go through the approval. Well, I wasn't supposed to do this, but by me doing it, the students were learning real world call center management, how to configure those systems that was doing auto dialing.
Yeah.
We were learning artificial intelligence, and I had a friend who was working on her PhD and I was typing her thesis. So I'm learning about artificial intelligence, coupling that with what I'm getting from the system that we had just implemented. I built out a call center because we went from people who needed help with working the system,
Mhm.
going walking over to walking over to Rodney, the guy name was Rodney. Walking over to Rodney, go, Rodney, hey, this is not working. Rodney, help me with this. Rodney, help me with that. And then we built a ticketing system. So now when you have a problem, you push the button, it created a ticket, and Rodney can work from tickets and he not running around, all over the place, right? We were able to, from data, see how many tickets are coming from password changes, how many tickets are coming from this, how many tickets are coming from that. Create a solution to solve the problem so that it can be done by itself. A person can do it by themselves instead of Rodney walking around doing it for everybody.
Okay.
So it was data, right?
Mhm.
The accumulation of data that helped us run the organization way more efficiently. We would monitor the calls and look at some of the challenges, like why people repeat, why they repeat calls, like why they calling again. If we didn't solve the problem from the first call, then we need to really come up with a fix so that they're not calling back over and over and over and over again. Then you see 3 or 4 operators that would actually have the fix. And
Mhm.
if everybody knew that information, it would be a fix.
Yeah.
So then I started developing training curriculums. So I was doing that before I left, before I was married.
Mhm.
And I put all that aside for love and marriage to bring up my beautiful babies, right?
Mhm.
So when I went back into the workforce after 12, 13 years, picked right back up with where I should have been in the very beginning with a 6-figure income.
Come on. Come
Yeah.
on.
Because the knowledge never died. It's almost like when you get that kind of knowledge,
It's like
I'm
riding a
talking to
bike.
people who talking about their job, and I was like, "Oh, let me show you how to handle that. Oh, do this. Let me show you how to. Oh, all you gotta do is let the leader of this know, a leader." And even with solving regular problems, like I would have people having issues, like I help people clean up their credit. I help people do a lot of things, right?
Mhm.
Having credit with problems with credit issues, or I made this payment here and the company's taking my money here and they draft my account here and all this stuff, and they've tried to resolve it and they're not getting a resolve. I'm like, oh, let me show you how to resolve that. And give them the fix, because the goal is we're not going to keep having repeat calls. I don't want to have 5 conversations to fix one problem.
Mm.
So because I was kind of groomed in solving that problem for a larger organization early on, I've taken that mentality in every job I've had since, going from professional to that.
Awesome. Okay, y'all. Let's put this all together because you all have gotten some. If you've been taking notes, and if you didn't take notes, then you should have been. But we're going to give y'all some cliff notes of how to project manage your life. One thing I heard you say was talking about how you made your schedule back in college at the times, specifically working through the weekend. And you did it on purpose because you didn't want to be distracted by, oh, girl, come to this party, come to that party, where everybody else was kicking it. You wanted to be able to be focused.
Yeah.
So, one thing you all can do to project manage your life is to focus. What are some things in your life that are distractions that are stealing your energy away from making money, being more productive?
Yes.
What other let's give them let's see, let me pick something else that you said that was key. The whole thing about your gifts, there's so many things that we're just naturally good at, and we do it on autopilot, just not even thinking about it because it comes naturally to us. Make a list, get a little post-it pad, make a list, jot those things down, pray over that list
Mhm.
because there's money in there somewhere. God
There
doesn't
is
give us gifts and
moolah
talents just to
in
be
it.
doing something.
There's there's moolah in it. And I was having this conversation with my girls because one of the
Mhm,
things that I was telling them, I had a mentality and this was just me. My
mhm.
mom didn't say it, but it was just me. I feel like when you get to a certain point in life, you're on your own.
Yeah,
Not on your own as if no people or human is there, but you really have to take responsibility for your life. And I've always had that knack to help. And I don't like to see people who are close to me really suffering and hurting.
yeah,
So I remember my parents in an intense moment about $200. I'm the fly on the wall, and I hear them going in. They weren't fighting, but it was to us, it was fighting because they
yeah,
weren't like that.
yeah.
Over $200, and I wanted to break that up. So I said, "Daddy, you take me to go get a job." I was 12 years old.
Mm.
See, he didn't want to work, so that's kind of how that went, right? And I was like, yeah, yeah, I want to work. So we left, and there was a McDonald's across the street from this location where I ended up working for real.
Mhm.
But we went to the McDonald's, and I'm tall for my age, and I'm very when I was young, I was very articulate. I knew it. You can tell me I knew stuff. So I went in there, and I didn't know there was an age limit with how, with you being I was 14. I'm sorry. I said I was 12. I was 14. An age limit. You had to be 16
Okay.
to work at the McDonald's. But across the street, there was this African American owned print shop. The lady had the afro with the pig
Mhm.
fizz, and there was the picture on the outside and stuff. And I figured that's a personal business owner. They should hire me. So I go in there and you could just hear the typewriters going. You could just hear all the noise, the copy machines. And I said, I'm looking for a job. I would like to know if you would hire me. And the lady was like, I'm busy.
Like, "Look, girl."
Exactly. Seriously. She was like, look, girl, I am so busy. I don't have time to train nobody. And she was overwhelmed. I think every church in the area had her doing a church program. She was doing a lot of stuff for the school. And she was at little, it was like a Kinko's
Okay.
right there, right? Coming out. And this person walks in, they have on a rollers, coffee all over their clothes, look like pizza food. It's just she was a hysterical mess. And she's like, please, I need you to type my thesis. This is how I ended up typing thesis. I need
Okay.
you to type my thesis. Her roommate and the roommate's boyfriend, the roommate and her boyfriend had gotten into a fight. She had been working on her thesis all night, all day, and she had to defend it that night at 6. And they had gotten to this fight and they got food, and that's why the food, her dirt. I mean, and she literally left her apartment in a robe and some slippers with rollers in her head. She
Wow.
was distraught. You could tell she probably had not slept. And
Wow.
she was asking for this lady who owned that business to take
Mhm.
her stuff and fix it for her, like type it for me, get it ready. And the lady had just told me she was busy. She wasn't taking new work. I mean, people were calling. You could hear denying folk over the phone.
Yeah.
And I said, I'll type your thesis.
Hmm.
Like, because the lady told her no, and I could just see the hopelessness. I said, I'll type it for you. And she was like, you work here? I said, no, but I know how to type. I promise you, I know how to type. I type real fast. I'm telling this lady, like,
Yeah.
I'm like begging for her to let me type. I said, I type real fast. She say, I'll pay anything. She said, how much you charge? I say, $200. She gave me 2 crisp $100 bills. I'd never seen a $100 bill before in my life. And I said, okay, let me go ask my dad. So I walk outside with her because she's, outside. I'm like, I have to go ask my dad.
Yeah.
And I said, Daddy, is this real? And my dad said, Billy, where you get that from? And I said, this lady right here, she want me to type her thesis. And my dad was like, type of what? So he don't know. Yeah, because my parents were older. He's like, so I gave him the $200 and I said, Daddy, please, can I stay? Can I stay? I asked the lady who owned the place if she had like 4 empty typewriters, nobody was using. They were sitting along the
Yeah.
wall. I said, can I use one of your typewriters? The woman put her hands on my head, wipe it down. No. Yes. She was like, yeah, you can use it. So I'm getting ready to, I'm setting up. And so now I'm about to show off. I'm setting up and a girl says it needed to be in the AP something format. And I said, you have an encyclopedia? So, because the woman is like in awe looking at me. She said, how did you say you're right? I said, I'm 14. And she was, yeah, I was 14. I think I was 12, to be honest. I really think I was 12 because she was blown away. And she got her encyclopedia so I could look up, how to do it.
Yeah.
And I started setting up the typewriter because I used to read about it. Start setting up the typewriter and stuff and, getting the font right. And it was, I was used to the one with the carriage return that you had to slide. Her stuff was automatic. And I had never had an automatic typewriter before. So when I touched the keys, barely it was just fast. And I already typed fast on a manual typewriter. I started showing off. I was like, ma'am, oh, you said something? Just I had just made $200.
Right.
My parents were not going to be fussing anymore, right? So as I'm typing, and the lady she felt confident that I knew what I was doing, the woman that paid me. So she was like, you're such a lifesaver. The woman gave me a hug. She was like, oh, no. I'm like, there she goes, food on my face. So she left. She said, I'm gonna go shower. I'm gonna come back. Thank you so much. At the rate you're going, you're probably gonna be finished really soon. I think it took me like 3 hours to type all of that stuff. It was over 100 and some pages.
Wow.
So as she was coming back, I was putting paper clips on the pages.
Yeah.
Because some of the stuff wasn't making sense. I'm reading it as I'm going. I'm like, I don't know if she meant this to say this, So, and that was the other thing. I used to love English. So I used to love correcting sentences. So I'm just going. But I put paper clips on it and I asked her, I said, is this a dialect that you were trying to do? Or is this the right thing? And she goes, oh no, this is wrong. It shouldn't be. She said, I'm so sorry. And I told her, I said, yeah, I figured it was wrong. And I asked her, would this sound better? And so the lady who owned the place is overhearing me and she is blown away. Like, I can't believe I just fired somebody that I didn't hire. Right. And, so I ended up getting the job there because she was just blown away at how well I knew stuff. Right. And she said, you edit too? I said, yes, ma'am. She said, well, how much you charge for editing? I said, $200. So she gave me another $100 bill and two $50 bills. I made $400.
Wow.
In 4 hours at a young age.
Yeah.
And one of my confessions is for every dollar I spend, $10 come in. Every dollar I spend, $10 come in. And I would always pray for God to give me wisdom on how to get wealth. It works. So a lot of people, instead of being frustrated, because I had times when I would be frustrated about money because I'm bombarded with what was going on. Yeah. But then I had to go back to the place where I belong. You start realizing, you know what, this ain't working. So you start going there. And I'm telling you, when I say God shows up and shows out every time, we have not because we ask not.
Amen.
Fussing about it is not asking about it, especially if you're not going to the all-seeing, all-knowing, earth is Lord's and the fullness there. Like, that's not something just to say it. Because whatever we say, we create. And that's real talk, right? So why not create something amazing? Why not create something beautiful? Why not create? You know what? My family is wealthy, prosperous, and rich. Like, I'm going to be rich sitting here. I remember because I couldn't work for a long time. I remember telling my husband, when I get a job, I'm making six figures. So while we sit up here trying to struggle, there's no such thing as trying to struggle for me. I'm just waiting. When you release me to do it, six figures. I started in July. I made half six figures in 3 months.
Wow.
Versus, what, that was the most I had made working. I worked years. So, you work a whole year and you look at what you made at the end of the year. I made in 3 months what I normally, at the top of my pay, made in a year. The next year, quadruple that. The next year, double that, quadruple. So one of the things that I tell people all the time, if you want to make a certain amount of money, you need to know, you need to curate your skills. You need to know what you can do. You need to know that you know what you can do. And then you need to write down, make sure that those numbers make sense. Make sure that you know how much you need to make to take care of your household and have some left over. Because some people just say, I want to make six figures. But 6 figures go all kind of ways. You got a bunch of zeros in front. So you need to know what that number is. You need to write the vision and make it plain for those who see it and run with it. But you need to write it just for yourself. You need to be comfortable asking for what you want. I've seen people write down and say how much money they want to make. Go on a job interview. And when they ask you, so what's your desired salary? And they'll lowball their number. They won't even put the number that they said because you're not comfortable doing it. That's why I say write it down, make it plain, start speaking. I decree and declare that I'm a six-figure earner, that I make, $10,000 a month. I make 30,000, whatever that number is that you want.
Yeah.
You start doing it. I have testimony after testimony after testimony of people who have done that.
Yeah.
And within 3 months, God shifted their entire financial perspective. And sometimes the how don't matter. You just got to have faith that you can do it and that God will do it for you and through you. So I know I said a lot. I got all off topic. All off topic.
That is amazing. Y'all, look, we can pass the offering bucket now. I can go ahead and say a benediction. That was amazing. You guys see why I love talking? Cousin Matt, we got to have you on regular segments, free game,
regular segments. Okay. Okay, because I'm already decreeing this gonna get 1 million views. People gonna be going out of their way trying to see this video. Sponsorship gonna be like, look.
I receive it.
Yes, ma'am.
It's blessed.
Because there are a lot of people who feel like church people are just church people. And the thing that I didn't like is making God look bad.
Come on. Yes.
How we wealthy, prosperous, and rich and serve the Most High and broke.
Yeah.
That ain't go together. Or manipulating people. Let me talk about that. I've been around strangers. Talking about that. When you have a manipulative spirit, meaning there are people who I've met that speak the cliche but don't believe it.
Yeah.
And they try to manipulate people into sowing into their life.
Ooh.
Tell the truth, like the devil, right? You know what I'm talking about. They be like, oh, do you like verses? Praise God. Do you like amen? I love me a good, what's that? What you call that stuff? Vain, fake stuff.
Yeah.
What sense it make to have a purse when you don't even have money? No, I'm serious. I've met people that do that because they see you with something and they want to keep complimenting you on it to think you're going to sow it in their life.
Yeah.
How much sowing do you do? You do more dry begging than sowing.
See.
Call it dry begging. So
I'm going to use that. Dry begging. Yes.
Dry begging. Really? But you know what? I like you have the anointing of influence. You should be selling something.
Mm.
There are people that can sell. Like they don't even realize. You want to make money? You can sell. There are products and services out there that need a spokesperson, that need somebody that loves it, brings value to it, and can show everybody else and present it to somebody else that make them want it.
Mm.
That's when you need to use that gift. And watch God show up and show out for you because you get all the purses you want when you do that. So it's one of those things where you look for uh ways to be a blessing to people,
Mhm.
but you also you want people, God want people to be authentic. Like you
Yeah.
have to show up. You can't expect uh that you're entitled. This think about, well, I don't know, your kids are probably not at this age yet, but some kids go into what I call entitlement.
Mm.
My Jesus ain't your Jesus until you decide to, have that personal relationship with God. Now, our young kids will benefit from it. Or you're not entitled, like Steve Harvey said, to this is my money. This is my gift. This is my talent. So oftentimes people are not satisfied with what God gave them.
Yeah.
They're looking at Nikeya with the nice background and the pretty hair and the wonderful husband and the kids, and feel like they're entitled to the same thing because they love Jesus. But
Mm.
they've never asked God for anything for themselves, for their purpose and the plans that He has for you. So
Yeah.
that's the main thing that I encourage mothers to do. You
Mhm.
have to do that for yourself so you can be available to your kids. Here's a true sign that you're out of alignment with who you are.
Y'all got y'all pens ready? Jot it down. Here we go.
A true sign as a mother, as a parent, as a vessel that bring children into the world. When you're angry, when you're mad, when you're frustrated, and you feel unfairness in life because you have kids,
Ooh.
and you feel like they're the reason you're not doing life,
Mm.
you're out of alignment. Because number one, they didn't ask to be here. Number two, God is not a God of mistakes. He even causes our mistakes to prosper. So if He brought you to it, if He gave you the opportunity and gave you the privilege to bring a child into this world, He will also give the honor and the grace for you to be able to do that
Mm. Amen.
to do that and it doesn't have to be either or.
Mm.
And when it's either or and your decision is to do child, but you're frustrated about it, you're
Mhm.
out of alignment. And your kids feel that.
Yeah.
They really do. I would be around so many homeschool parents who were depressed.
Mm.
Like I could tell you depressed. You over here homeschooling and you don't even like it. Like you're literally mad about doing the homeschooling thing. And then, and
Get
when
some of
you're
those
around
musical
another
moms
adult, you're like,
too.
oh my God, a breath of fresh air. I'm around another human being. This little midget, referring to their kids with these names and stuff. They're like, oh, there go trouble. Like, no, 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 no. We don't call our kids trouble.
Mhm.
You don't want that. No, no. Because life and death is in the power of the tongue.
That
I'm
part.
my kids were when I decided to do project management, my children were my guinea pigs.
Mm.
Remember that TV show is Be Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?
Yes.
If I could teach this to a fifth grader, I could teach any adult. I
Mm.
would sit them down. They were my little audience, and I would be explaining stuff. And if they looking at me like a deer in headlights, and I was like, "That don't make sense." Nope. So I would have to come up with ways to make it fun
Mhm.
and make it make sense. Like literally make it make sense. I
Okay.
remember I was teaching a concept work breakdown structure. So work breakdown structure is a hierarchical chart, how you take something and you break it down to its lowest point. And so my son was like, I got it. Like the least common denominator. He took a number and he was like 72. And then he said, you do the little branch stuff. I forgot we did stuff like that when we were
Yeah.
younger, right? How about I'm in class? just like the least common denominator. And I wrote it down. People like, oh, I got it. And I'd be like, all right, PJ, so what you think about this? And he would be like, oh, that makes sense. And is that like, when you go to the sandbox, because I was talking about drawing inferences, right?
Mhm.
He said, so is that like you saying sandbox and sandals and sun? And I was like, yeah. I use it in all my class. I said, like if I have you highlight something yellow and you read this paragraph, you have to draw inferences. For instance, if I say sandbox, water, sun, I use a lot of examples that he gave me to the point, when they would get out of school, sometimes they would sit in the class with me, like if I had to bring them home. I
Mhm.
didn't separate what I did, my open book. They knew what I was doing, right? My son started teaching my classes. I have students getting their project management certification. My son taught the class.
Wow. I love it.
He got his Six Sigma certification.
Wow.
So you don't have to, oh, this is my thing over here, and this is your thing over there, because there are a lot of people that's teaching their kids what things people think is complicated. If something this laborious for an adult is like stressful, but if you had learned it at a young age where your mind is relaxed and
Mhm.
the darkness and the secrets of life is no longer hidden from you, and somebody can guide you in the right path, that is life changing.
Yes. Literally
Problem
life-changing.
solving is life changing. The ability to solve a problem. And that's one thing I even teach the kids like that. So how you gonna solve that? Like what fixes it the
Yeah.
first time? You know, and we have those conversations. I mean, those are life lessons. Even though I use it corporately, it's a God thing,
Yeah.
So
Let me tell you, okay,
I
let's
let
help
me
some people that's gonna wanna after they hear all of this and they had their good pen, taking notes, and they wanna book you. How can they book you to speak, to project manage something, for conferences? I don't know, like, this what this lady is talking about, I need her to come tell this to my audience, I need her. What can they do? Where can they find you?
so they can find me on my website, projectqueenmag.com.
Okay.
I have a phone number that they could text. Let me give you my they could text 404-737-4133,
Okay.
and they could type coach me. And I have several programs. So I teach project management boot camp.
Mhm.
To sign up for the boot camp, you can go to my Instagram page. I'm Project Queen Mag basically everywhere.
Okay.
Project Queen Mag on Twitter, Project Queen Mag, Instagram, LinkedIn. I'm myself. I'm Magaline Harvey.
Mhm.
Um, and if you go on to my Instagram page, that'll also get you to my class, public class schedule. But
Okay.
that's bit.ly/ Project Queen 2023.
Okay.
That's the upcoming schedule of classes. I do one class a month virtually. So you can be anywhere now and
Okay.
take the class, and you will get a live instructor, and you have to be ready to go. So we do 4 years of college in 4 days. It's intensive.
Oof. But y'all hear her, it'll be fun. It probably won't even feel like it was that long when she get done teaching, so, yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. And I'm gonna bring back the calls that I used to do midday. I like to do that conference call approach where people can sort of call in and
Mhm.
ask their questions. I'm dealing with this at work. How do I deal with it? Kind of thing.
Gotcha.
I don't want to know the company you work for because that indicates you. I don't want to know your name. Just give the situation.
Okay.
And I help you navigate through that. I help a lot of people deal with their isms and to show up in spite of the isms.
Okay.
Because there's nothing you really could do about the isms a lot of times, but you need to have the courage to speak truth to power. But in order to do that, you have to be productive.
Yeah.
Like, you need to know what you're doing. You can't tell people they wrong when you don't know anything. And there are people out there that do, this is unfair. This isn't right. Well, what's fair and what's right? And they don't know what's fair and what's right.
So this
So
is
if
kind
you're
of
an
like a Dear
engineer,
Abby, but for like, when they have the Dear Abby column, you would have the call line for people just to have real life scenarios like, hey, what do I do? Yeah, run that back. That sounds like that girl.
yes, in workplace situations. So that'll be on my Instagram once I determine the best way to do, because I could do it on Facebook, I could do it on LinkedIn and stuff like that, but people's handles show up.
Oh,
So there's no anonymity, there it's not anonymous.
yeah.
Please listen to my words there. And I like for it to be anonymous so it doesn't indicate the company.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to have nobody sue me. People so happy today. Oh my God.
Girl, that's true.
So, and I want them to feel safe to talk about the situation. There's a lot of so what's coming about now, especially since that the foot on the neck thing. There's a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion
Yeah.
roles, but they don't know the scenarios.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know the scenarios because a lot of people aren't just comfortable coming out. The ones that we hear about are really extreme,
Yeah.
and they're the ones that kind of leak out because somebody had the camera during the time. But
Mm-hmm.
what about those where there are people right now with mental issues and mental problems because they were under so much stress and pressure, and they just did not know how to handle it. They thought they had to take it because if I'm getting paid a certain amount of money and this is my livelihood, which that shouldn't be your source, but that's a whole nother thing. But if that's my livelihood, I tolerate to an extent the undermining, the demeaning, and
Yeah.
you find yourself in a position where you let it happen so much
Mm-hmm.
that you can't come from under it.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer if you can't change the situation, remove yourself.
That
Um,
part and go in peace.
and sometimes people have a hard time doing that. So what I like to do is help you position yourself where you can lead.
Yeah.
You have the credentials that you need, and you can speak to those credentials. So I like to help people do stuff like
If y'all don't follow this woman on everything she got, girl, thank you so much. I got to give you another hand. Follow her on everything she got.
Oh, praise God. Look, give God all the glory, honey. Because it's so real. It's one of those things where when he's real to you and when this is real to you, it really works.
Yep.
It works. Like I'm a living proof that it actually works.
Amen. Well, y'all, we got to get off of here. But don't worry, I'm gonna bring her back at some point. I don't know if it's gonna be this season or in season 3 or something. We're gonna figure out after we get up the rest of our schedule set for these episodes. Mag, you gotta write some books.
I love the victorious living. I love
Victorious living solutions.
just the name in itself
Yes.
speaks life. So I only pray that I can bring as much value to this as you intended for it to be.
Well,
I
thank
just want to
you.
commend you
Oh.
for stepping out and doing it. So many people say it, but they don't do it. And done is better than perfect.
Done is better than perfect. I love that. It was a process, but God helped us get it together and we got it out. And ma'am, you have done more than add value.
Awesome.
Thank you so
I'm
much.
honored. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. Well, you all, that is it for this episode, Managing Life with the Project Queen. I hope that this has blessed you. Well, I know that it has, as much as it has blessed me. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Keep living victoriously. Bye, everybody.